Okay, speaking of poets, I would like to introduce Barbara Tran. Barbara writes poetry, short fiction, and screenplays. She's authored the narration of Madam Pirate Becoming a Legend, a short film nominated for Best VR Story at the 2022 Cannes Film Festival. Yeah. Barbara's debut poetry, Precedented Parroting, was a finalist for the 2024 Governor General's Award. And she has many more accolades, but let's hear her read. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you so much, Kieran, and Planet Earth Poetry, and all of you for being here sharing stories. It's such a pleasure to both hear you and to take part in this. My book started taking shape when I was visited by many birds. And yesterday I had the good fortune, thanks to my friend Emma, to be hiking on Main Island and be visited by a giant raven. So I'm going to start with a poem called Raven Takes Wing. The first step is admitting it. I am a willful forgetter. I've taken this step many times. My bones are inclined to forget. The crick in my neck, the dull ache in my wrist. It should be obvious how they got this way. It is obvious. Somewhere in the recesses, black drongo, common kingfisher. I summon memories like birds. I assign them colors. If I admire the way they swoop and soar, dive and catch, if I separate myself from them, make them pretty things with wings, things outside myself, things that sing, things that eat the bugs that plague me, I can both remember them and send them scattering. Kite, cormorant, heron, the color of a pale amethyst. If I think of them this way, the way they move is not frightening. The way they plunge and peck, the way they persist, buoyed by a gust I cannot see. After Dionysus set tigers upon Amethystos, he wept. His rage transmuted into wine-colored tears that stained the girl Artemis had turned to stone. It's how amethysts got their color, how my memory, the one I keep trying to send into flight, was stained. Rage, an apology, the egret, a white flag, thin throat, thin song. It's impossible to hear egret without an echo, regret. My thoughts are scattering like sandpipers. I'm falling out of reason. The birds are losing their feathers. The wind is forcing them to land. They are waving like flags, like surrender, like egrets, feet planted in thick mud. My father emigrated from Vietnam in 1965, and at that time there were said to be fewer than 1,000 Vietnamese in all of the US. So part of my thinking with this book was, whenever I think of him with so few Vietnamese in the country, I think of him as being viewed as this kind of exotic bird who is mimicking the language as opposed to being a native speaker. This is called The Translator, Fire. After the mynah bird's tongue was split open by the chili peppers he fed it, after the rough outer layer of its tongue peeled off, after it finally did what he commanded, after the bird gave in and cawed, "Speak, stupid, speak," morning after morning, Ba would have given anything to return it to its original ignorant state. Instead, day after day, he was greeted with the same stale command he himself had issued to the bird. Only then did he recognize his mistake, and only now, do other men recognize theirs? In their eyes, Ba sees bewilderment that he has been allowed to fly free in their home. Where is his cage, he knows they wonder. Who has let him out? He longs now for his wife to join him, to feel her body curl into his, the way certain words in Vietnamese charm his tongue and settle deep in his chest. You can hold that for the end. Thank you. You'll just make me nervous. As I said, birds were visiting me during this writing, and a number of the poems were written around the time of the murder of George Floyd, the beginning of the pandemic, and the associated rise in anti-Asian violence. This is called Loon Song. Fever puts a funny halo around everything until you can't tell sky from slipper, God from the stuffed hedgehog whose head your dog hollowed out. It's a good ego booster, believing you can soar without even kicking off the covers. Caged by fever, I slump on a pillow as flat as the earth envisioned by Herodotus, its far end draping over the edge of the bed. My feet are an illusion, the way a wet parking lot can appear as a lake to a loon in flight. My mind, a useless appendage that flops when it should flip. Loons' feet are set way back, making them agile in water, awkward on land. Like planes, they need a runway for takeoff, but a water one. It can require up to 400 meters of running for them to ascend. They can become stranded on a small pond, the way I am on this raft of a bed, wishing to pass those orphaned in Atlanta, a precise motherless roadmap. We are inventive with our torture. Swinging fists are so passé. A swing in a cage allows you to fly all the way to the bars, grasp them with your hands or beak. Glass reflections give the illusion of space and delightful company. When challenged with infection, bees will increase activity to raise the temperature of the hive. V was a lifelong believer in karma. Fever protects the way madness does, with a swing and a mirror. I'm going to close with a poem that was inspired by a 9-year-old. I didn't know the name of those bugs that curl up when you touch them, the pill bugs. And once I learned from him that they were pill bugs, I went and learned a little bit more, and I learned that their formal name is Armadillidae.
Oh, wow.
Right? Has to be in a poem. So this poem is after Elizabeth Bishop, and it borrows a line from Jericho Brown, and that line is both the first and the last line in the poem. The Art of Armadillidae. A poem is a gesture toward home, a snail balancing the weight of its exoskeleton on its soft body. The weight of these days on our soft bodies. Water's lullaby pulling us ever seaward. We say it as if it's softer than cancer, the C word. How many soft bodies rely on such a flimsy euphemism as a shield? Conglobation may serve as a more effective shield. Take a note from the Armadillidae, who roll up when confronted with pressure. Armadillidae are land crustaceans. Their lobster cousins, harder shelled. During molting, they crack their shields straight down the back, leaving them exposed, but for a paper-thin exoskeleton, enabling them to replace parts of themselves they've lost. Regrowing lost legs, claws, antennae. Haven't we all lost something in this shell of a year? Lost something we'd like to replace? I lost my heart, my head, lost over some trifle probably. I lost my uncle, my mother, my way. By the laws of probability, the losing's not over. What's left to do but gather what's left of me? A poem is a gesture toward home.
Wow, that's gorgeous, Barbara. Thank you so much. Wow. Was it really 15 minutes? I wanted more. They're really fabulous. Okay, next up we have Rob Taylor. Rob is the author of 5 poetry collections, including Weather and The News. The News was a finalist for the Dorothy Livesay Poetry Prize. Rob is the editor of What the Poets Are Doing, Canadian Poets in Conversation, and Best Canadian Poets Poetry 2019. He teaches creative writing at the University of Fraser Valley, and he lives with his family in Port Moody, BC, on the unceded territories of the Kwikwetlem and the Tsleil-Waututh peoples. Can we please have a welcome for Rob?
Thank you very much, Kieran. I'm so excited to be here. Kieran runs the tightest ship of any reading series I ever deal with. Amazing. So many thorough emails with attachments. It's wonderful. It's very exciting. And thank you to Zoe and this space. I've never had an escalator turned off for me before. The thrills are never ending. And really all of you, I go other places and I say, I don't say they're worse than here, but I always say Victoria has just the best crowds, amazing poetry sounds, like really high quality ums and ahs. It's just really fantastic. Don't feel any obligation to fake them for me or anything, but and Barbara, that was wonderful. What an honor to read with you. My new book is called Weather. It came out April of last year. And yeah, I'm going to read a poem from it. This is called Too Cold. Too cold in our apartment, yet my wife, who is never too cold, resets the thermostat to 0 and tells me to run up and down the emergency stairwell to get my blood circulating. But I am a 40-year-old man and not a child or a gerbil. So I wrap myself in her favorite white duvet and cumbersomely warm a pot of tomato soup. I've written, this is really drawn out. I've written 5 books now, and one thing I've come to learn about them is that by the tail end of writing a book, I'll have actually started writing the next one and not knowing it. And there's like a couple poems in the book that precedes the next book that kind of gave me a hint of what the next one was, even if I didn't know at the time. And my last book was called Strangers, and I snuck in 3 little haiku as section breaks in it. And then I wrote a book. The Weather is 2/3 of it is all haiku. So I didn't know that at the time, but I was moving my way towards something. And I don't know if it is going to stay this way, but since publishing Weather, I've just been writing poems that were very similar to that one that I just read to you, and that's because my wife insists upon it. She made me write that poem. People think that that maybe she doesn't like it, but no, she loves it, and she told me I had to write it. And then she said, now you have to write more of those. So since the book came out, I've been writing more such poems, and I figured I would take a little time here to read some new poems to you. These are things I've written since that book came out, in the spirit of that poem. This is called Muse. I asked my wife if she might keep a notebook of moments from our life that I could write about. Domestic exchanges where we both come off a little bad, but mostly me. You mean like how you never eat healthy food, so I have to leave plates of cut up vegetables in front of your computer like you're one of the children? She asks. Not exactly, I say. Though later, lying in the dark, waiting for sleep to come, my wife breathing in my ear like an elephant seal, I think, yes, exactly. This is called November 15th. The jack-o'-lanterns are dripping onto the neighbor's balcony. Could you please clean them up? I ask my wife, to preempt her asking me the same. To both our surprise, she scoops them into old Costco boxes and carries them down to the compost, a rare shared victory. Even the rain pitches in, clapping its little claps against the glass. Knowledge. At the dinner party, forks fussing, cups up, my wife outlines my bedtime routine. White noise, blackout curtains, body pillow, earplugs, eye mask, night guard, sleeping pill, CPAP machine. Some laugh, quick and beyond their control. Some subtly widen their eyes. All freeze. Does he snore? Someone asks. Sometimes. So does she. They feel sorry for her. I feel sorry for me. She relishes the scene, sorry for all and for none, I believe, like the apple before and after Eve. Precision. My wife bought me an okay shirt. And when she asked me what I thought, I made the mistake. So today I wore the okay shirt to a family dinner, and she said in front of everyone, "You told me you didn't like that shirt, but now you wear it all the time," which was not true. But I am a medium dog, neither young nor old, an okay dog. So I smiled, and my sister-in-law looked me up and down and confirmed it was a very nice shirt. A man of action. My wife reserves both the near side of the bed and the right to complain every time I slam my shin on the bed frame as I blindly lurch the edges of the room, which is unreasonable, I think to myself, as I snake the ensuite sink at 1 a.m., the wire churning hair, spit, and fiber that have slowed the drain for months. I repaired a bookshelf once, well past 2 a.m., and my wife walked all the way over to me, eyes still half shut, and explained I would wake the neighbors, then took the hammer calmly, without judgment, as from an innocent. Though knowledge, I know, she knows, is not the problem, just my journeying all the way around to her in the dark. So as I said, this book is mostly haiku. I took on the project, Barbara Pellman style of writing. By the way, I thought I invented the glossa sonnet. I teach it to my students. I didn't. You didn't. I didn't tell you. I'm not taking credit for yours. But I thought it was my own secret thing, and now you're writing them and ruining all my fun. No, but it was wonderful. It was wonderful. Now I'll say it's a Barbara Pellman invented form when I teach them from now on.
I guess.
I feel like it's like a glossa for people with less attention span, like me. So it works really well. Anyway, I apologize. This book, I wrote a poem. I like a project like that, and I wrote a poem a week during the first 3 years of my daughter's life. I have a book called The News, which was a poem a week during my wife's pregnancy with our first child. And then I thought, oh, that would be fun if I did that after the baby was born. But then the baby was born and any hope of writing disappeared entirely. But I thought, second child, maybe we can try this. And eventually I found my footing and did it. But most of the poems I pulled it off by most of the poems being haiku. So there are 3 years worth of poems. There are 156 poems, but they're very short and there's more than one to a page. So I wanted to give you a few of the haiku, but I don't really care which ones I read. So I was thinking we could work together to find a season that we could read. The book is broken up into 12 sections, one for every season. Each of them has 11 haiku in it. So the first question, would you like to hear things from the first, second, or third year of my daughter's life? Any strong feelings? First, sleep-deprived poems. All right. And spring, summer, winter, or fall? Winter? Okay.
Choose your adventure.
No, I need to remember here. No, I need to find it. Okay, we start in the spring. That's the end. Okay, here we go. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to read 11 haiku to you now. I'll have a bit of a pause between them, but it's still, it's a lot of poems to process in a short period. I always say just let them wash over you. If you connect with one or two of them and feel nice about that, then that's a wonderful way to have spent 3 minutes of time together. Don't worry too much about keeping up with all of them. Okay. Squinting to write. It snowed last night. The baby whimpers. My wife's hand quick between foreheads. Too cold to write down. The poem about clouds keeps changing. January. A jogger drags a dog leashed to her belt. Again and again, Levi lifts his head to the moon. Coldest day of the year, 10 herons, 3 beaks. The filled notebook page, wind blowing, white in a white sky. Today's no waste. I've read 2 pages of the very large novel. Iced over inlet and the sunset beneath it. Google Translate tab left open. We will visit in springtime. Pleased in my new parka, I swat at the year's first mosquito. I'm going to close with 4 poems and then one more little haiku from the book. It's not all haiku, but nothing's particularly long. This is called Waking to an Empty House. My family out in the light, now brightening my pillow. So finally, I read the thick biography a bit and weep a bit and lie there sensing every organ's bellows and wonder which will go, which gasping, the branches of that tree my son is grasping. This is called the blue octopus. He was about this big. The blue octopus. Every bath toy molded, tossed, except the one my son tore open at the tentacle, which poured its hoarded water from its wound each day and dries. I hold it up and say, this guy's a metaphor. And sunk amongst the bubbles, my son and daughter understand. A metaphor is a useless, loose-limbed blob you've come to love. Now, this is called Almost One Poem. The children finally in the bath, giggling, flipping the tap on and off. We lie together on a warm August Saturday afternoon, and I read aloud almost one poem before the children scream, and my wife leaps up and screams, and I leap up, bathwater breaching the hallway, and scream. As my wife twists the tap, then I plunge my hand to the plug, the boy wailing, realizing in our faces what he's done. His sister laughing, which we resist as one resists a buckling weight, while we haul out towels and press them in the dark corners, then lean all of us against the tub and let our laughter flow from where we know and do not know. Like water from the tap, the pipes behind the wall, the boiler, back and back, the river, cloud, Pacific, stars, who knows? We're laughing hard now, and if nowhere else but here, forever. Just one more poem and then a little haiku to close. Thank you so much. Excellent poetry sounds. This is called The Rusted Nail. It was about this big. Air ravaged, ochre and orange, long as the span of my hand, thick as my pinky. Beside the new bridge, my son holds it up in his open palms and asks if he can keep it. When I die, he'll pull it from a box of sticks, shells, marbles, feathers, buttons, leaves, and stones, and wonder what was wrong with me, and wonder what the hell it held together. Evening walk. My daughter's breath. The sea fog. Thank you.